I think what you have mentioned and what really struck out for me is that being in that small town, when you're stuck with the same people for over a decade and you're growing up together and you're all trying to
Hmm.
figure things out yourself,
Hmm.
friction is inevitable. And
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like that is actually the bigger conversation. How do we handle, you know, coping with friction and working through it rather than what
Yeah.
a lot of us will do nowadays is to like, you know what? I'm checking out,
Avoid. Hmm.
right? I am
Hmm.
checking out. That like we are unable to hold that space. It's where, yes, there we have different points of view and
Yeah.
we can also move forward and see each other and agree to disagree or whatever that may
Yes.
be.
I was just going to respond and say, just to validate that too, because that is so true that as adults, we still deal with these same things. And then
Mhm.
thinking about children and kids, they're dealing with these things with way less brain abilities, way less skills. Their brains are still developing. So thinking of, oh, I have to agree to disagree with someone else, or I have to navigate a tricky situation with an adult, and that feels weird and uncomfortable in my body if we're not really used to dealing with confrontation or conflict. Thinking about that for an 8-year old or a 9-year old, it's the same but different, right? They're having to really, and that can be cause a lot of anxiety and a lot of distress even in their brains and their bodies. And so I always try to think about some of the things that I try to bring to my clients in helping them navigate these challenges is really trying to think about the idea of what is it like for me and how can I stand up for myself, use my own voice while also holding that someone else might feel that way similarly or differently. And like it's kind of that whole idea of can I tolerate that discomfort? Because the more experiences that I work towards tolerating that discomfort, the more I'll feel competent that I can do those things, right? And so it's hard as a kid because a lot of the kids that I work with don't actually want to, they're more of the avoiders. They're like, I don't want to deal with the hard things. I'm going to just not say what I'm really thinking to my friend, or I'm going
Mhm.
to, pretend to be her friend or their friend, but really I feel like I don't want to be. So there's a dissonance between the internal experience and the external experience. So my whole goal is to help how do we let the internal become a little bit more external while still staying true to yourself and thinking about the other person's feelings? So it's a lot of work for like a small little person's brain, but it's practice over time and building some competency.